And we've got breaking news coming in. The Prime Minister will be paying tribute to all of the brave hearts, including Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat at the Palam Air Force Base in the national capital at 9 p.m. The Tiranga draped caskets will be arriving by a special Indian Air Force flight, landing at 7:40 this evening. And at 9 p.m. is when the Shraddhanjali ceremony by the Prime Minister, the Defence Minister, the Home Minister and the three service chiefs will be paying homage at the Palam Air Base. The families of the 13 persons will also be present at the Air Base. Mohit is with me live from outside the Palam Air Base. Mohit, all preparations now in full swing for the Shraddhanjali ceremony, the tribute ceremony that will kick off around 8:30 this evening, when the Prime Minister and other dignitaries will be arriving at the Palam Air Base to salute the departed, including General Rawat.
Well, that's right. In a short while from now, it is expected that senior-most dignitaries, including the Prime Minister, would be making their way right here to the Palam airport. And what we are learning is the aircraft carrying the mortal remains of all 13 fallen braves would also be brought in here at the Palam airport by 7:30. Post that, it is expected that not just the Prime Minister but other senior dignitaries, including the Raksha Mantri, would also be here. The family members of the other 11 members who were in this ill-fated helicopter would also be here, and the tribute ceremony will begin 8:30 onwards. Now it is expected that from then onwards the mortal remains could be taken to an army facility, to an army hospital, and it is likely that in the morning the mortal remains would be handed over to the various relatives of those who are no longer with us. And from tomorrow onwards, it is likely that the mortal remains, I beg your pardon, of General Rawat, as well as the wife of General Rawat, would be taken to their house, and people would be allowed to pay their respects out there at their home. And from there would be a procession would also be taken from the Kamraj Marg residence to Delhi Cant area, where finally the bodies would be cremated. So this is something that is expected right now. We are currently standing right in front of the Palam Technical Airport. The various arrangements have been made, various carriages have been taken inside as well. Since this is also this is a situation in which the entire nation is mourning. Attempts have been made to ensure that as few people are allowed inside, because the families also need to mourn with the mortal remains as well. So they would also get some time with the bodies as well. So all of those things have been scheduled as the night, or rather the evening, progresses. So this is something that we're learning right now. At 8:30 is when the tribute ceremony will finally begin, and the mortal remains, as I pointed out before as well, the aircraft is supposed to land by 7:30, and the mortal remains would then be brought out, and then onwards the entire ceremony will proceed further.
Okay, so 8:30 p.m. is when the Shraddhanjali ceremony will begin. The Prime Minister will be arriving there at 9 p.m. He will be laying a wreath and paying tribute to all of these personnel. I want to also now bring you some fresh images that we've been able to access. These were images that were just moments after the helicopter impacted into that mountain in Tamil Nadu's Kurur. Let me just take you to those images right now. We've got those images on our screen. And this is the big fireball that engulfed. This is the post-impact fire that had erupted just after the helicopter impacted into the side of that hill. It's a shallow bowl, almost like a valley, where this helicopter had crashed. It was about a good 10 kilometers from the place that it was supposed to land in. There are many different scenarios that have been playing out for crash investigators about whether the pilot was trying to avoid a certain cloud, because this is a unidirectional approach to that helipad. And these are first images captured by locals of the post-impact fire once the helicopter had crashed with such high intensity after that impact. But this is only one of the videos. There is also a 15-second video of the helicopter just before it crashed, captured while it was in the air and before these images actually played out. These locals with their mobile phone, had captured what are believed to be the final 15 seconds of that helicopter. Not only is it tragic, but it will be valuable visual evidence to the crash investigation team that will be looking for the truth of why this terrible tragedy happened. Take a look at this detailed report.
The frightful last moments of the ill-fated chopper carrying Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat, wife Madhulika and 12 defence personnel. Caught on camera by a group of unsuspecting youngsters on ground in the Nilgiris mountains. The chopper can be seen and heard roaring overhead, with no apparent wobble and maintaining what looks like a steady course, but dangerously close to the foliage on the ground, navigating through foggy and misty skies, with apparent bad weather and low cloud cover. The youngsters can be seen stopping on the path, wondering what's going on. The video then catches a loud booming explosion sound in the background as the chopper, now not on camera, crashes into the terrain. Taken aback, the group of young residents are seen exclaiming, "Has it crashed?" The video then abruptly stops, but not before giving some important insight into what exactly went wrong seconds before the fateful mishap. Was it the bad, blinding, misty weather, which often grips these parts of Nilgiris at this time of the season?
The helicopter was definitely flying low because this area, you could see that the entire back area is completely covered in mist. Around 11 o'clock, this whole spot will be covered by mist. And generally, any kind of helicopter sortie that starts from Sulur and coming to Wellington base, they actually, from that crash point, either take a left or a right. On the left side, there is a hill that is almost twice the size of this one, which is completely covered by mist right now. And that's the only way they can go, and on the right side. But generally, they prefer the left side. And as we speak, you could see the mist is setting in over there. And this is the most kind of unfortunate part.
Did the weather cause cockpit disorientation? Or was it some sudden technical snag? The black box retrieved from the wreckage holds important clues. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, what does this video actually show? We've spoken to experts and we want to try and decode some of what we possibly can, not to preempt the crash investigation that's going to take place. But clearly there's bad weather, which is pretty typical in this time of year. There is a low cloud cover that is quite visible at this point of time. There's fog and mist. The chopper, however, appears to be in control. And if you listen to the audio, you can hear the helicopter's engine. There doesn't appear to be an engine failure. The pilots appear to be in control. Was there a possible disorientation or a drop in situational awareness as a result of this visibility or environmental factor is a question that the probe investigation will have to answer. And that is only possible once the contents of the black box are analyzed. The black box, of course, has already been recovered and is currently being decoded and analyzed by the crash investigation team. We've got more breaking news coming in. Some very, very sad updates coming in on the identification of the dead. The remains, the people who've been identified so far, of the 13 dead, only 3 persons have been positively identified specifically so far. The remains, the mortal remains of General Bipin Rawat, his wife Madhulika Rawat, and his military advisor Brigadier L.S. Lidder have been positively identified so far. The other 10 bodies are not identified just yet because of the extent of the damage and the charring to them. The mortal remains of the others have been kept at the Army Base Hospital mortuary. They will be kept at the Army Base Hospital mortuary in Delhi, and after DNA matching and identification, only then will the mortal remains be handed to the families for their final rites and rituals Gaurav Sawant joins me live. This is such a heartbreaking update, Gaurav. Such a heartbreaking, unspeakably sad update. Of the 13, mortal remains, only 3 have so far been positively identified. That of General Rawat, his wife, and his military advisor, Brigadier Liddar. The other 10, they are in such a terrible state, charred so completely that they haven't even been identified positively yet. That is a process that will happen in Delhi.
Shiv, the process of identification and positive identifications using DNA techniques, that is exactly what is happening and will happen. In some instances it has, and in some instances it will happen at Research and Referral Hospital before the mortal remains are handed over to the next of kin. This is required as per procedure for compensation, for a lot of other benefits to flow into the NOK. And as you very rightly point out, Shiv, this is extremely heartbreaking. It's extremely heartbreaking for anyone. But when you know the individuals personally, when you've interacted with them so extensively over the past years, in some instances decades, it does hurt all the more. Look at the instance not just of the CDS and his wife, but Brigadier Liddar. He was approved for Major General. He was about to take over a division in Jammu and Kashmir in a short while from now, and unfortunately this incident happened. And just a week ago, his young ward, 16-year-old child, teenager, had written a book, and there were celebrations that the book had been written by a teenager, so well written, that was being talked about so extensively, and suddenly the world comes crashing down in such a manner. So it is extremely, extremely heartbreaking at this point of time, as the mortal remains are flown into the national capital around 7:40 this evening. And we are told that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, the 3 service chiefs, their families, they will all be there at the Palam Technical Airport, Shiv.
Gaurav, thanks very much for that. Very, very sad update that we're bringing to our viewers. And I'd like to say that we will continue to cover this story very sensitively, because the families of all the 13 who perished will be at the Palam Air Base later this evening once the bodies, the mortal remains, land there in the tricolour-clad caskets where the Shraddhanjali ceremony will be happening. It is pretty difficult and an extremely emotional ceremony that will take place at Delhi's Palam Air Base. And I promise you, the viewer, that we at India Today will not cross any security cordons. We will not be doing this in an insensitive manner at all, because we do understand that that is a huge concern with the way many in the media tend to cover these things. On India Today, we will not fail you, the viewer. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has informed Parliament today that a tri-service inquiry has already begun into this chopper crash, which killed India's first ever Chief of Defence Staff. It's still sinking in that India's first CDS is no more. The inquiry will be headed by Air Marshal Manavendra Singh. He is the Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Indian Air Force's Training Command, headquartered in Bengaluru. He's also a veteran helicopter pilot himself. Defence officials have already retrieved the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, black box basically, from the wreckage of the Mi-17 helicopter. Official sources say the black box was retrieved after authorities expanded the search area from 300 meters to 1 kilometer from the point of impact. The black box will provide crucial data on the chain of events leading to the tragedy in the Nilgiri Hills. A team of the Tamil Nadu Forensic Science Department, headed by Director Srinivasan, also earlier arrived at the crash site near Katteri in Kunur.
इस दुर्घटना के संबंध में इंडियन एयरफोर्स द्वारा एयर मार्शल मानवेंद्र सिंह की अध्यक्षता में एक ट्राई सर्विस इंक्वायरी के भी आदेश दे दिए गए हैं। इंक्वायरी टीम के ऑफिसर्स ने कल ही वेलिंगटन पहुंचकर अपना कार्य भी प्रारंभ कर दिया है।
The Shraddhanjali and farewell tributes to Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat will take place at 9 p.m. this evening at Delhi's Palam Air Force Base. The death of India's first Chief of Defence Staff in that chopper crash in Tamil Nadu has left an enormous vacuum in India's topmost military ranks. Hours after General Bipin Rawat's demise, the Cabinet Committee on Security chaired a meeting at the Prime Minister's residence on Wednesday, where the process to choose his successor and the next steps in filling this void have already begun. Before General Rawat's appointment as the Chief of Defence Staff, it was discussed that all serving chiefs, vice chiefs and commanding-in-chief level officers of the three services were technically eligible for the post of the Chief of Defence Staff. General Bipin Rawat was finally appointed on the basis of seniority on the 1st of January last year. In the current ranks, Army Chief General Manoj Mukund Naravane is the senior most amongst the three service chiefs. Army Vice Chief Lieutenant General P. Mohanty has been asked to cut short his official visit to Qatar. He is the second senior most army officer after the Chief of Army Staff.